This is more ancient Decipher. Everybody missed it. The capital letters are drawn to teach ancient sciences juxtaposed with English, to teach what unchanging positive identity looks like. And this, as we'll see, the lowercase letters are drawn. The lowercase letters are drawn to show what temporary value nature looks like. The uppercase letters are drawn to show what positive value nature looks like. Just got erased a little. So, and Allah's name was used to teach English. The Al Jahiliyyah is referred. It's a period of educational corruption, pantheist corruption before Islam. Pantheism originally had revealed the name Allah in algebraic, what they probably called algebraic consciousness. Math, algebra is not math, but how they teach it now because they have physical delusions forced before propagated with the sciences with roles with this, and since ancient times because they criminally re-engineered ancient revelations specifically to have nations only realized in relationship to negative value nature progressions and threats and self-defense nature before realizing maturity to the stewardships of such as modern nations already realized this evidence fabrication is only let train this way because of a nature of corruption between with human education and between and what made the illusion of differences to sides. The nations are defending pseudo identities not by accident. So in this country, in this nation, we have legal natures who can't explain the organized crime methods with colonization. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a police form, I'm not a criminal. We're gonna examine how we need to use terms like criminal enterprise to examine this, to understand how it causes criminal insidiousness natures, like wrongdoers, and like associate criminals and people who commit crimes called predicate acts. And we'll use legal books, and we'll use correlation and truths. You see, notice how when they say extreme Islam, the foreign legal natures that run with ours now as allies, but they were the nations themselves victim of the same thing before ours, but they themselves were the stewards of geopolitical criminal education and of justifications with it with the leaderships of nations. So the lowercase value, the letters. Now there's three rows here. I roll Allah's, that's invisible. That's where we're going to use science to talk about invisible value, inherent value, to every temporary value nature, including consciousness, is the real positive value source. So that's why there can be negative value natures of consciousness, of identities of consciousness, which is a value nature. Identity is a unique type of value. Real science has to explain the difference between three natures of value and the identity of value. It is required lesson with this. So we're gonna examine this. For example, lowercase I. It's only with one point of real possession. A period is a point of real possession, and a comma is a shadow of possession. With the colon, which was plausibly, it was demonstrably criminally renamed the colon. So we would to perpetuate obfuscations of English and of other sciences needed to perpetuate justifications of lies with the legal natures of the stewards of our nations. And this is in relationship to state terror, breaching, hurt conviction natures to all areas. What really was and is behind divide and conquer strategies, and to the nature of human nature through education, sabotaged human education makes sabotage human nature, and the ancients with a criminal enterprise understood this international. They could do it, make a species value nature containment system with the nations self-defending their own roles with it. So we're going to see the campus Marcius was criminally re-engineered into the geopolitical campus of today, and other nations that were already taken from the campus Marcius was originally an internation science. For example, the identity of Rome was not Italy, and it wasn't what it was before Jesus Christ. With Jesus Christ and what Islam together are multi-front, with Islam pointing out that other religions are multi-front with this too. They're about human education that was criminally re-engineered. So we see Julius Caesar. Juxtapose energy C, you see. Your C. Consciousness is high, raises identity, seeing tell. Sees tell. Identity sees tell. Now, A, for example, is A in Allah. And it's alpha as well. In temporary, immediate space value nature. This is going to be shown to teach how value A is a radical in immediate space nature. And to teach about this, we have to understand how it's the nature of an alpha through contrast in relationship to omega, which is the possession of the same identity but in two different positions because of the nature of juxtaposition. Because of the nature of diffusion. There's three natures of diffusion. There's one overall, there's one with bodies of value, being with consciousness, being group, and there's one before and as the value of all finite. To understand this, we have to understand why the word finite is in the word definite, in the definite article, value all, space nature. And with the definite article the, in English is the only definite article the, this is because English is a temporary value nature. And the temporary value, there's one unchanging value which is actively in demonstration to us, which is space nature's positive identity. So we're going to use value al, which is the definite article of Arabic, but it's also of space nature. This isn't written, this is demonstrable. And all that is not value all, which is positive being as a positive identity, space nature, and longing to it in temporary space nature. Everything not being that is longed away from it. So that together, value all becomes value all, I-L-L. That's where the English word comes from. Every word in English spells out a sentence. Every letter of English spells out a sentence. Every letter of English spells out a word, and every word spells out a sentence. Every letter of English spells out a word, and every word spells out a sentence. And to teach how this works, the ancients must have called this algebraic consciousness. But what it is not one science. And it's definitely not math, because the value of metaphysics comes before physics. And the value of unchanging space nature positive comes before that. Right to left. And then it's for a nature of diffusion. In this first, so we're going to talk about, that's why Allah is invisible. But we're going to show how through correlation we can discern the parts of it. G, J, P, Q, and Y is right above the 5 letters of Allah. This is to teach that. See how the letters that stick below the line, the ones that are curved, are facing to the left. And the lowercase values, they stick below the line. They're to teach about one nature of diffusion. There's also in relationship to Decipher the Old Testament, for example, and this is before criminal persuasions. Then there's so it goes 5 and then 7. There's one that sticks over on each side. That's for that. That's bodies diffuses freedom, high kindness, longing tell. Now, the alpha and the omega. That's because the extreme range of what is diffusing through Earth, it is wider than the Earth. It is wider than what it is juxtaposing. What it is diffusing through. As one body, but in different bodies, with possession of the same positive identity. So this is what makes polarity. Polarity nature. Polarity nature is correlation nature. So you see the alpha and the omega. The omega is drawn by 0, but the alpha and the omega are together in value W, capital W there. And the alpha is the A all the way on the left side of Allah. So that's pushing up through G, P, J, P, Q, Y, and straight up next to it too. So it's pushing up through the B and the T, even though they don't come before that. I mean, right above it. It's exactly how the ancients taught this. Demonstrable. Then there's 9 above that. So there's one sticking above this, the 7 letters that are the height of the capital letters, but they're not capital letters. So there's 5 that stick below the line, the 5 pillars of English. And then there's 7 that stick above the line as lowercase letters, but they're not uppercase letters, but they're to the same height of it, because the height is important. And the word high is important. That's another interscience. They took that and made it seem like it's a fun thing with drugs. That's in relationship to natures of organized crime and of organized crimes yet acts that are uncharged yet, but known since founding, with psychology, with their roles with the courts and with the nature of the courts, because this affects what they talk about out loud, and they don't. And it's with a method of evidence fabrication only let realized train to be the self-defense natures of the branches. So we need forgiveness for them too, because if we start all sides are wrong. So when we pick a side, a type that was made and legalized, so we have legalized criminal enterprise, legalized criminal inceasement, legalized criminal progressions, negative value nature progressions, and they're being blamed on other things. So those 9 letters, 1 sticks out on each side of the 7, and that's why the W is pointing up 2 ways with a solid line to the 1 sticking out on each side, and the A is pointing up like that, the way it's curved outwards. the whole nature is kind of, and the right side of the W, that nature between the other 2 areas, that's pushing up to the last 5 letters, U, V, W, X, and Z. U stands for you. V stands for victory. And W stands for wall. And X stands for extinction. And the top of the Z stands for zenith. And the bottom of it stands for zoo. Because this is in relationship to how we are a correlation nature in relationship to what's actively in demonstration to us. And because it's actively in demonstration of us, it was and is a phenomenon that revealed the sciences together to one task. When they're with no criminal persuasions, they're in one act together in demonstration to us, the sciences. So, algebra is not English. Is not math. Algebra is what is with all the science. Algebraic consciousness is used to teach, is called what the sciences are actively working together, which is an act of ratiocination, which is the act of revealing progressive revelations, which is the act of true positive value nature. True positive value nature connects with that nature that is greater than us, with the alpha and the omega. It connects with, inherent to the alpha and the omega is value Ah, at the end of value Allah. This is about to teach how. This is also used to teach, all parts of it, English. All parts of this are used to teach the same thing actively. So Allah's name, A, is used to teach about three natures of diffusion one way. The two letter L's in Allah, they are used to teach about two natures of diffusion another way in temporary. Now we're in temporary space nature. And then value AH at the end of Allah. Excuse me. With the H standing high. See, now H is one of the letters standing high. That's for a reason. That high is touching the top of the Z. And that's what shows what's positive value nature. When value Ah is inherent to temporary value nature, invisible value Ah, it connects with the top of the Z. And the top of the Z is pointing back towards the A. That's why and there's art. I'll do another video on that. There's art with Jesus Christ. And he's got the Alpha and the Omega. Where he says, I am the Alpha and the Omega. And that's with Decipher, related to Decipher, why he drew the Alpha one way. But he drew the Omega as the capital W. And he drew the Alpha as a capital A on his right side and then W on his left side. He's got the halo behind his head. And it's illuminating the letters A through Z, A through W. And then X, Y, Z, that's in relationship to if we fall within the range of, within the nature of unchanging positive space nature identity or not. If we do, our value is all the way to the top of the Z. If we don't, we're negative value nature. We fall short of that. And what unchanging space nature's positive identity does, longing progressive value to itself, only longing with progressive value to itself in immediate space nature. All that is not that is longed away from it. This is called Leith of Hadith. And so this pushes our negative value nature, means our identity as a value, and our nature as a consciousness pushes it from here. And we're spinning, it pushes it away from immediate space value nature, Earth's value, which is a volume of metaphysical consciousness, which is the progression of unchanging space nature's positive identity, which is its progressive value. Where one nature of it is in the nature of change. But it changes, it is of the nature of change. Allah, value A, the first part of Allah. But it is only progressive change through immediate space nature. In other words, it doesn't change. It only becomes of a progressive value. That progressive value is being longed towards itself in immediate space value nature, Earth. All that is not that, in temporary space nature, Earth, is longed away from it. And that's a Leith of Hadith. It's forced away from it. Because what is unchanging in relationship to what is inherent to every temporary value has an unchanging grip on it, as the same unchanging thing. So we become negative value nature to positive value nature's progression somewhere else when we're negative value nature. When we ignore the identity on the nature of value nature system inherent to consciousness. The reason we do this is because human education that was honestly revealed before criminal re-engineering of it. This was revealed by scientists working together in demonstration of what is actually in demonstration to us. was the cause of evolution, was what really revealed our ancient statutes still broken demonstrably. And see, the nations now only have education that are having people compare to understand identity. They don't understand that identity and a real identity, real positive value nature does not look at itself comparatively. It looks at itself through correlation. There's a big difference. See, we're not being allowed to correlate because of theories and delusions with the sciences, each one, and together. And this is with sensibilities that are criminal insidiousness natures in relationship to natures of organized crime that were legalized because no one understood it, no one understands it. And by the time we have legal natures, they're only trained to the self-defense natures, being roles as evidence fabrication natures, as hurt conviction natures, and as indifference to it. Glorifying title and glorifying treatments of facts as only let realize. So we don't really have free speech. We have it in relationship to a narrative. Two, that didn't even explain yet our nation's original terror impositions through the law, through what they call allies. Not to those nations that humanity suffers from the same criminal enterprises we suffered from. But it's not greed and things like that. This is the nature of the business. You know what I'm saying? This is the nature of the sciences. This is the nature of what's being put forth. So, what looks like greed and what everyone calls greed and things like this, human education failed us, and not by accident. So the uppercase letters are used to teach about the identity of unchanging positive value nature. And the lowercase letters are revealed to teach what temporary value nature is. Like lowercase a is the value of a man. And lowercase n, an, these are the two indefinite space nature articles. And two indefinite articles with English language. The male and the female. When they are positive value nature, inherent to them is a shared identity, which is value ah. That means that we fell within the range of unchanging positive value nature's identity. That means we connect with an identity, a nature that is greater than ours. And that's what causes the might of evolution. That's what shows us the acts and what to do next. Not this business value nature systems. It will only cause negative value nature progressions. The only way to do it, the only way to heal humanity is to connect with and as and be unchanging positive value nature. And to do this, we have to admit that the sciences made mistakes. We have to admit that everyone's been glorifying sciences and education with delusions, with physical delusions, and with fears, and with hurt conviction natures, evidence fabrication natures only let realized. Oz. Foreign natures use that term too, shock and awe. So I apologize to Iraq, for my nation, and for other nations, for our allies in that war who came with that term. I don't know who exactly. We can find out the name, but the only reason we can't find out the name is because our nations share hurt conviction opinion natures, and treatments of facts, and treatments of logic that are only entertained with the media too, and with the sciences. So someone could have the facts say, Robert Luskin is a real former director of the FBI. And I could get into details that are known and indisputable, and we could understand the stuff, organized crime relationships and other criminal relationships with needs that told the same lies that he's connected to, inseparable from, and with related court, police threatening rape and things like that. We have sick sciences. We have sick branches because of it, and because they're hurt too. You know what I'm saying? People were only let realize as hurt, conviction, nature, stewards of our nations. We must understand how, why. This is what religions are about, talking about. It is most logical. A real education would say is most logical that the religions are talking about a criminal enterprise, an archetypal criminal enterprise, not a crazy dream. This is with Cipher and Decipher. Why did they put it in Cipher? Because everyone was already, the human education was already criminally re-engineered. That's how the messengers of God figured it out. That's how the prophets of religions. That's how they understood it, because they had figured out the pathology of with Jesus Christ too. With Julius Caesar, the proofs too was trying to stop. Of course, they slandered him after his death. In all the nations, that Rome, Etruscan Rome, was originally internation science. Not like it is today, though, where our nations are commonly just exploiting our people and leaving us with broken human value nature systems and broken standards. You know, all the water underground, the earth denatured, no one realizing it. Even wild landscapes are denatured. The soil is denatured. All the foodstuffs of the Native Americans were taken away. Why? Not to kill them. In fact, they needed the tribes divided from each other. They need time consumed. Her conviction nature is blaming human nature for what is not really human nature, but for the influences of criminal enterprises, criminal persuasions, juxtapositions of criminal enterprises. And free speech is not let low systemic evidence fabrication methods and tactics. They even switch names right in our courts. In other words, they're doing things to obfuscate the truth when they're not putting things in writing. They just put charges in writing. We have systemic, there's proofs too recorded of systemic fake witnesses, because the police are using them to cover up live progressions they had with their roles with drug dealing, with all kinds of exploitations of women, like Lisa Ling, I think, or on I believe it's on CNN. She's got stories about prostitution with all these clubs and with the police mixed with it. And then in real life, in Connecticut and from Covington Street, they had the leasing agent's son mixed with was sharing a girl with police, and she also had a boyfriend who was selling drugs out of UPS, and it was charged for that per him. And I never met the officer type tied to her and computers, but he kept wanting to meet. I didn't want to meet because everyone kept making confessions to me. I lived in apartments. I know, but this is also in relationship to what I mentioned about how we have directors like former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, tied to federal criminals in ways realized, but in ways further not realized. Like he had federal criminals who had a co-defendant named Charlie LeConte, who had a daughter in my grade, and she had friends in my grade with drugs and stuff like that, and they used that, and now they're police and stuff like that, because they were always tight with the police and with the criminals. There's a nature of that with Hartford, Connecticut through time too, and in related cities and courts, because they have court police with confessions too, connected to the people with the threats and with the evidence fabrications. So these police forms go into courts and they tell the appointed lawyers to lie, and then they do it because they don't know how to. They just respect title. They're evidence fabrication natures, and we need a place that we could have free speech, especially in writing in courts. To this day we still don't have free speech in courts, and they evidence fabricate, and they do it with psychology. We have to understand psychology's roles with international prisons, internation prisons, and terror medicine since before our nation's founding, and in relationship to what really was behind the narratives, like witch trials and things like that. It wasn't because of drugs on wheat or whatever they said like that. The witch trials were in relationship to organized crime, evidence fabrication methods. That's way more probable. And plus, the word high is a word needed to teach sciences that are working together through English to teach themselves, to teach us. The preservation of the only active lesson that is in demonstration to us. We are the campus Marcius returned. We want the name. Call every campus lost and found. We play no game. We want the name. Put campus with a dunce cap in the rear in shackles. It is time to fix this nation. For example, we need a game. We need a game of games in New York. We can fix it. There's too many. I could come up with 1,000 games because we have pantheism returning now. And this is not, see, the religions are being kept. The Quran warns against people who are Muslims always, but they're not really Muslims. It warns against this. The Quran, right up in the beginning, asks the person trying to understand the faith to value unbelievers more than them, more than fake Muslims. See, those fake Muslims are trying to hold the whole nature of the convictions of the whole religion like that, like al-Jahiliyyah. It's wrongly interpreted as the period of faith before a period of ignorance before Islam. It was a period of criminally re-engineered education before Islam, and still forced to shared policing nature upon Saudi Arabia, for example, with all kinds of nations that they don't even get along with. But they get along because we have our nations share victimhood to an criminally international education and business nature, and all that comes with it, with the negotiations with that, to be sharing police and sharing markets positions that were originally forced with terror. Now, the foreign nations that did that here, they share an educational method that doesn't really go over ancient history and modern history. They just blame it. They blame it on America because they force that our education forces that we glorify our founders with physical delusions in states that they were forced to political theater with terror. In other words, we're forced to glorify that so we don't figure it out. Now we can't correlate now. You know, they're telling us to compare and say, and that's why we have to glorify this to compare it to other people they take out of context to other leaders. Then it becomes a game where they hold who's going to memorize the most facts about American history, but they have them wrong up front. So the most important fact is to understand Marbury versus Madison. I'm not a lawyer. It means real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice. And so you see, even if you say that, they'll put trick legal spins on that and not let our rights, because the nature self-defending itself as the branches, and in conjunction with prisons in ways either that they don't really understand, but they exploit them because that's the only way. You know, they're with physical delusions about what a job is and what value is, the branches, and they're only let realize this way, knowing we're going to be guys. No, guys, G-U-I-S-E, not G-U-Y-S. But I mean, it's the same thing. This is why women don't have rights. Then they have women speak for rights, and they do more damage to the rights because everyone's taught to compare. Everyone's not taught to make distinctions. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my video. Thank you. And there'll be more Decipher.